Okay. Good evening, everyone. From wherever you're joining us, either from social media on YouTube. Thank you for joining the community of practice on youth for this very important conversation, an International Youth Day conversation, green skills for a sustainable Nigeria, the role of youths. I'm being joined this evening by wonderful men. My name is Ebenezer Wikina. I'm the thematic lead for politics and governance here at the NESG, and I'm joined by two wonderful young men, pillars, growing pillars of our country, who you'll get to meet shortly. But I'll quickly just give us an introduction to today's conversation for those who might be joining us for the first time, and tell you what we hope to achieve. Would also like to invite you to join us from wherever you're watching the conversation, either on social media or on YouTube. Drop your comments and also ask your questions to the panelists when the time for that eventually comes. For those who might be, I mean, especially from social media, for those who might be knowing about the NESG for the first time, the NESG is a non-profit, non-partisan private sector organization with a mandate to promote and champion the reform of the Nigerian economy into a modern, globally competitive, sustainable, inclusive, and open economy. As we know, the NESG is Africa's global think tank, redefining public-private dialogue, and the goal is always in the national interest to ensure that the country moves forward and brings those benefits for the people. Also, most people might know the NESG more through the Nigerian Economic Summit, and that's an annual summit. The 29th edition of the summit is scheduled this year to hold from October 23rd to 24th, 2023. For those who would love to know more about the Nigerian Economic Summit, visit 29.nesgroup.org to get your tickets, to find out more about the side events and also the main plenary sessions, as well as the speakers for this year's event. The theme for this year's NES is Pathways to Sustainable Economic Transformation and Inclusion. And funny enough, it ties directly with what we're discussing this evening at the Community of Practice on Youth's conversation. But just to also let you know about the Community of Practice on Youth, the COP Youth is a dynamic and inclusive platform at the NESG that aims to empower and engage young leaders from diverse backgrounds, as you see from our panelists today across the country. And as future drivers of our nation's growth and prosperity, the COP Youth, which is made up of Bridge Fellows, pretty much are involved in policy conversations and seek to find ways to engage young people in the public policy developments, of our country, and ensure that we can contribute to the economy of our dear country. And it's in that vein that we're having today's conversation, hoping that at the end of this 1 hour, we'll be able to highlight the importance of green skills in creating a sustainable future for the country. We'll be able to showcase successful youth-led initiatives in food systems, in energy, and also in the environmental conservation space. We'll also be able to discuss ways to promote and enhance green skills development among Nigerian youth, and even understand what exactly are green skills, right? And also we'll be able to identify opportunities and challenges in integrating green skills into the various sectors across the country's economy. And participants as well, you especially, listening to us, we hope you can become part of the conversation and share your ideas and tips with us, and also ask your questions to the wonderful panelists here as we move on with the conversation. So I have with me the two wonderful panelists whom you'll hear from shortly. David Omata, who is our thematic lead for climate change and environmental sustainability, and Nicholas Alifa, who is our thematic lead for food systems. I would hand over to them shortly to introduce themselves. But don't forget, like I said earlier, please be on the lookout. Follow us through the conversation. You have a chance to ask questions to our panelists and also to share your general thoughts from wherever you're listening to us or joining this conversation. So over to you, David and Nicholas. Let's start with David. David, can you tell us a bit about yourself? We know there's a very long bio, but just give us a summarized version of your work and the work you do here at the NESG and also outside of the NESG as well. Yeah, over to you, David.
Okay. Hello, everyone out there. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. My name is Omaka David Omakoji. At the NESG, I work as the thematic lead for environmental sustainability and climate change. And outside the NESG, I work with Next Year Power as a technical associate where I lead the Pan-African focus research and advocacy in energy transition and power. I have a master's degree in environmental science and sustainable development from Tongji University in China, and I am currently doing an MPhil in renewable and sustainable energy technology at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, Ghana. I have been in the development space for about 6 years, focusing on environment, sustainability, climate change, and energy. That is all for now.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Thank you.
Eben.
That's a very summarized version, but thank you. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. Over to you, Nicholas. Again, a summarized version of your bio.
All right, definitely is going to be very summarized. Hi, everyone. Alifa Nicholas is my name. At the NESG, I coordinate the food system thematic group. Outside the NESG, I like to see myself as someone who play at the intersection of food science, market, and policy. So I have a master in food technology. I'm currently doing another master's in food science, and I have a master in business administration as well. Formerly, I worked as the policy research fellow at the International Institute of Food Policy Research, IFPRI, in Washington, D.C. So that's what I do at the moment, and that's just a brief version of me. Nice to meet you
Thank
guys.
you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. From those introductions, I'm sure you can see people who have triple and double masters, have a wealth of experience working across multiple sectors. I'm looking forward to the wonderful conversation we'll have shortly. So let's start with you, David. And I'm sure most people must have seen a lot of talk around green skills, IYD 2023. But what do green skills really mean if you define green skills? And what are some examples of these green skills in today's world? Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Eben, for the question. Green skills, to put, you can refer to them as sustainability skills or environmental skills. And these are the skills or the knowledge or competencies that individuals will need to possess in order to contribute to a sustainable and environmentally conscious society and economy. And these skills, we may think that they are just limited to those in the NGO space or the activists and advocates. No, the skills, they cut across every profession and every field, and they also cut across all the sustainable development goals, not just limited to the goal 13, which is the climate change, or the goal 7, talking about clean and affordable energy. So when you talk about the green skills, we all know that they have been on the increase, and their importance has been something that has been expanding. A lot of awareness has been created in terms of green skills and how they can help us to achieve environmentally conscious or a net zero society. Now, green skills, like I say, they are relevant across every field, across every profession. So in any field you find yourself, in any profession you find yourself, definitely you need to have a green skill. And if you don't have yet, maybe you should acquire one. If you have, you can also expand on it. Let me give a few examples. Uh, for those in the engineering and technology, we all know renewable energy engineering is on the high side, from solar to wind to bioenergy to small hydro. So in this field, when we want to talk about the green skills, you can look into something like designing or developing and maintaining renewable energy systems like solar, wind turbines, bioenergy, or hydroelectric power plants. Or you can look into things like efficiency technology, like skills related to optimizing energy usage. There are plans, and there is a UN document currently that looks into having a net zero energy building by 2040 in the US. And although this has not really come to Africa yet, but these are things that are already ongoing in the developing world. These are the skills that people or should have or need to have when you want to look into the green skills in the engineering sector. When you come to the agri sector or the food sector, you look into things like the agroecology, organic farming, or food waste reduction, like competency in minimizing food waste through proper storage and distribution or consumption practices. These are green skills. Or if you even look into the business side, business management, you talk about sustainability management, you bring the concept of circular economy knowledge or life cycle assessment. All these are green skills. So if you talk about the circular economy, for example, then you are dealing with the goal 12 of the sustainable development goals, talking about sustainable consumption and productions. You need to acquire some green skills in this sector to reduce when you want to talk about the R's, reduce, reuse, and then you recycle. Even in the healthcare and medicine, there are green skills. Environmental health experts or green healthcare practices. All these are green skills that are in the medical line, or even in the field of information and technology. Like I say, green skills cut across every sector. Green IT solutions, for example, maybe you want to talk about skills in designing energy efficient data centers, or you look into things like optimizing software applications for lower energy consumption, or you want to look into developing digital solutions to address environmental challenges. These are the green skills in the IT space. Or let me say this and stop here so that we can take more questions. Looking
Yeah.
into the transport and logistics sectors, you can
Yeah.
talk about public transit planning or logistics optimization. All these are the green
Mm.
skill in the transport sector. Or looking into things like electric vehicle, which is becoming more rampant, or we are becoming more aware of it recently.
Mm.
These are the
Yeah.
green skills that I think we can have in the society. And these skills are things that every youth should acquire, irrespective of any sector you find yourself, irrespective of anything you do, wherever you are. You need to acquire or you need to have the green skills. So in the future, when you go to look for jobs, I think beyond do you have the skill, what people will be asking for, or if you are looking for funding, like is your project environmentally inclined? Is it
Mm.
climate smart? Or do you have the
Mm.
green skills in this sector that you can use to contribute? These are the things I think that funders and organizations will be looking out for from youths in the nearest future, if organizations are not already doing that.
Yeah.
Even let me stop here so that we can take more questions
Thank
and
you.
yeah,
Thank you, thank you,
waste too much
thank you
time.
so much, David. I like the way you're
Yeah.
able to be expansive and explain how the green skills cut across several sectors. Because when people hear green or anything green related, they imagine it to just be climate focused alone. But hearing this has explained that it goes beyond agriculture and goes beyond climate change as well. So just to come to you now, Nicholas. So from a food, I mean, David has explained how these skills are relevant in every sector, but from a food systems perspective, in what ways do you think young people can apply these green skills to the food sector? And also, are there any like successful youth-led agri-food business models or initiatives that focus on sustainability that you can share with us in this conversation? Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ben, and thank you so much, David, for that very wonderful foundation that you've laid. Pretty much, he has made my work very easy. So, from what David has said, you will want to agree with me that you can't talk about green skill without talking about the food systems, because actually, it's not surprising that one third of the climate action or climate activities or the greenhouse gas is coming from the food system as a whole. And when we are talking about the food system, we are not just talking about the farming, we are talking about cutting across from what happened even right from the farm or even before the farm down to the consumption. So from production to processing to packaging to transportation to handling to consumption, everything along that line, it's actually what food system is. And then you can also agree with me that it have effects or significant effect on the greenhouse or on the environment. So
Yeah.
how can the youth be able to take advantage or develop green skills to in the food system? The first thing I would love to say is that You need to start from being to
David, can you hear me?
Yeah, I
I
can
think
hear
Yes,
you.
I can hear you, but I can't
Okay.
hear Nicholas. I thought it was fine.
Nicholas, go on. It feels like we lost you for a few seconds there. Please, can you say what you were saying earlier?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Go on.
Yes.
Great. So I was saying that when we talk about the green skills that you can employ in food system, you need to talk about, you need to look at it holistically. You need to look at it from the farm, even down to
Mm,
consumption. The implication of that
mm,
is that if you have eaten today, then you need a green skill in food system, because the way you consume food also demands that you have a kind of green skill. Someone used to say that you don't stop eating because you are stuffed. I mean, you don't stop eating because you are full. You stop eating because you are satisfied. Why?
mm,
Because for every 1 kilogram or 1 gram of food you consume, a lot of resources has gone into it. Water
mm,
has gone into it. Fertilizers have gone into it.
mm,
Transportation has gone into it. So you look at that from different perspective, you discover that even those who consume food has need to have like these green skills to be able to consume food in a way that is sustainable. Now, I'll give you a good example. Now, there's a thing called the mile per ton of food. For instance, when you consume mango, for instance, and the mango you are
mm,
consuming is coming from India, you are contributing significantly to global emission, because a lot of resources has gone into transporting from the farm in India to the
mm,
warehouse, then from the warehouse before it can come down to Nigeria, then from the port in Nigeria to where you are living. You discover that a lot of resources has gone into it, which has significant effect on the environment. So from the consumption level, you discover that if you have a green
mm,
skill, you want to consume locally. You want to consume what we want to consume food that has minimal, minimal mile per ton of the food that you're consuming. That's for consumption. Now let's talk about
mm,
the production. Those from the farmers, of course, we know there is sustainable farming, there is climate smart agriculture, where you have to
yeah,
use less water. You look for a way to use less water, you use for a way to recycle resources, so that we don't have waste that goes into the land, into the landfill. Also, you look for a way
mm,
to make sure that David talk about the circular economy. How can you make use of for instance, animal agriculture contributes 4%. 4%. Animal agriculture alone contribute 4% of the total greenhouse. The implication of
oh,
that is, so how can we be able to make use of cow dung that is coming from, because of course cow is essentially methane. So how can you make use of cow dung, or how can you make use of the waste that is coming from the animal, recycle it back into fertilizer, recycle it back into biogas? In that way, you are trying to also reduce the environmental effect of agriculture. Coming to the
yeah,
production side, we are talking, I mean, to the processing side, youth needs to understand that you don't need, or you can't continue to do production as usual. And when I mean production, no, maybe the first thing that comes to your mind is, okay, it's for big companies out there. Even the big companies are aware, and there is like a searchlight on them. But the major problem is coming from small holder or small processors,
mm,
that uses inefficient, machines, consume a lot of energy, and at the end of the day, it ends up in the environment, in the atmosphere, a lot of pollutions here and there. So as a young person that is going into processing, either in a small, medium, or large scale, you need to start learning, how can I employ energy efficient systems so that I can
yeah,
reduce the impact of climate action? Like he is saying, companies are beginning to sell they're beginning to sell their carbon, I mean, generate revenue from how they'll be able to cut down the carbon emission.
hot
So
carbon. Yeah,
you can
yeah,
yeah, so when you want to go into food processing, you can begin to think from that angle, you can begin to think from that perspective. And as a young person that is environmentally conscious and can demonstrate it, trust me, you're going to benefit from what we call impact financing. There are different ways you can gain finance, in businesses. There's venture capitalists and all of them. But if you are able to demonstrate that your production is environmentally friendly, and you can do your analysis, your life cycle analysis, and discover that you have significantly reduced the impact of environmental effect, you will be able to position yourself to receive funding called from the impact investors. And those fundings are they are very low. I mean, they are very low in terms of the what you need to pay back as interest. So this is one of the advantage. So talking about from the transportation aspect, what can the young people do? So you can also look at, okay, how can I efficiently transport food product? I'll give you an example. I've been in the food distribution market in Nigeria for the past 7 years, and it's not actually a very good thing to know that not less than 40% of what is produced never eventually meets up to the consumers, and bulk of this waste happens on the road. You might have seen trailers carrying tomatoes. You'll be rest assured that before that tomato comes down, 30% had gone. So as a young person, you can decide to come up, how can I improve this? How can I reduce? Because this 30% that has gone, if you calculate the impact, the resources that have gone into the 30%, it's at the end of the day come back to the environment, right? So you see, it's like it's all encompassing. So when you're talking about developing green skill as a young person for food system, don't just stop at the climate smart agriculture and production. Think about the processing, think about the distribution, think about how you consume them. Finally, I would love to say that your own business can be that you want to make food, you want to make sure that people consume food that are produced closer to them. That is a business model. So you can use technology to connect people who are producing a particular food in their surrounding with those who need them. Once you can do that, you are drastically reducing the carbon footprint of food production. So that is another skill. It's another business model that young people can use. So I say this to say that when you talk about green skills in food system, you need to think wide, you need to think outside the box, because that's why we are young persons. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Nicholas. Just before I move to David, I just want to dwell on Nicholas a bit. So Nicholas, are there any? I mean, you've given us just one business idea already. I feel like anyone out there can run with that business idea and start a huge organization. But are there any examples from Nigeria, from other parts of the world that you think you want to share of like a climate smart, a green led, agri business model that you think you'll be able to share with us? Yeah.
Well, two persons come to mind. Of course, we most likely might have heard of Soilless Farm that is using hydrophobic so not hydrophobic. Don't mind me. I'm doing a project that's on a hydrophobic. That's using hydroponic system. That's using hydroponic system and aeroponic system for production. In that way, you are able to produce more with less resources, use less land, use less water, you use precision agriculture such that so many things doesn't go to waste. You give the plant what the plant needs exactly. Of course, so this is one example. The soilless farm is actually one good example of young persons that are rewriting how food is being produced in Nigeria. Now, the second person is there's this Femi. Femi is into drones technology, and one of the things that drone technology does, it helps us in precision drone technology and precision agriculture. Like I said, with precision agriculture, you'll be able to tell, okay, what is the moisture content of the soil, what moisture content does the soil need, does this plant need to be able to meet up. Then you give exactly what is required. In that way, water is not lost, water is preserved. You can also begin to begin to understand what quantity of fertilizer do I need. One interesting thing about the use of fertilizer is that it comes to a point that it cannot improve production beyond a particular limit. Like the gap, the plot is like conical in nature, right? So maybe, for instance, if you need like 5 fertilizers in a particular land to produce something, and you produce 8 fertilizers, the one who used 5 bags and the one who used 8 bags are going to have the same output, because you have reached the optimum point of production. So what precision agriculture does is that it helps you to understand what exactly what quantity of resources is required to be able to produce something. So, like I said, in Nigeria, most of the technology that is available out there, or that is led by young people, is still on primary production. So we still need more young persons to come up with more at different point of the supply chain. We need like more efficient. What's wrong with having like a mobile refrigeration, like that's a mobile refrigeration. Okay. Another one that comes to mind is the cold hubs. This I've forgotten his. He uses this business model of pay as you store. So what he does is that he built cold storage system close to satellite market where some of these products are sold. So when you're not able to complete selling your product, instead of you leaving it at room temperature for it to spoil, you can just move it into the cold hubs, and then you can pay as you use them. So that's another technology that can be very useful. Again, we need more young people to begin to think creatively. How can I make consumption more effectively? How can I make transportation and distribution more sustainable? So we still need more things to come in that area. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nicholas. And I really like how you're able to give us these real life examples, to show people that it's not just a theoretical thing that we're saying. This is a real life thing, and these applications are things that we can definitely apply, immediately after this conversation. So just to come back to you now, David. So can you just tell us a bit about how green skills can equip young people to become advocates for environmental action? I mean, the Climate Change Act has recently been signed. There's the National Climate Change Council. There's so much conversations around how Nigeria has signed on to the Climate Change Pact. But what role can we as young people play in that action? Because everything feels like it's high level there at government level. But how can we come into that space, and how do green skills equip young people to be part of that engagement? Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Ibe. Yes, it's true. When you look at these conversations, at times the whole concept of the climate change policy, the net zero emission policy, the nationally determined contribution for each of the countries, they look high level.
Yeah.
But if you also look within, these are things within us. These are things that it's either we are doing already, or we have the knowledge, but yet maybe we are yet to take some actions on them. Or maybe we need to acquire the knowledge or get some of the skills in these sectors. Now, green skills, of course, it would position the youths to, first of all, have the knowledge and awareness when we talk about climate change or environmental sustainability. Because you cannot discuss what you don't know, and you cannot provide the solution to what you are not aware of. So if you are not even aware that there is a problem, you will not be able to provide the solution. And let me give an example from what Nicholas said in terms of the fertilizer application to plants. We've had some programs in Nigeria that these packages, the herbicides, the pesticides, and these tools, they are given to farmers. But if you look into that closely, these things that are given to farmers, the pesticides, the herbicides that are being given out, they are things that are already banned in the developed countries. But they are being brought here in the name of food production, and they are being handed over as a form of empowerment to our farmers. Now, if you look into this, the highly hazardous pesticides, aside from causing environmental degradation, affecting the microorganisms in the soil, they also have an impact on the health of individuals. They contribute mainly to cancer and other forms of illnesses out there, of which not until recently a lot of people are not aware. And there are people in the government you did that they are still not aware. But if you have a knowledge around the green skills that we are talking about, you would be able to know that, yes, you are doing this empowerment. It's very fine. We like how you are doing it. But if we look at it from the environmental side of it, or even from the health side of it, then we need to go towards the green skills. And how do we go towards the green skills? The herbicides, the pesticides that you are bringing, these things are not really okay. They are carcinogenous and they cause environmental degradation, both to the soil and to the humans. They are not good. How do we go about it? We can now adopt some of the green skills in terms of moving towards the organic fertilizer
Yeah.
or moving towards the organic pesticides and herbicides, which are not harmful to both the soil and both to human beings. So using my first example, I say that it would make us to have more knowledge and then we'll be more aware of the things around us. So if we know more about the green skills, so it will provide us with the deep knowledge and understanding of environmental issues. We'll also be able to know that, okay, these are the root causes of the ecological challenges and the interconnectedness of the various sustainability concerns, like I said. So if you want to provide food or you want to say, okay, food availability, food abundance, yes, you want to, let's say, you want to look into the SDGs, one talking about the no poverty or SDGs, two talking about the zero hunger. But if you have the green skills, you will have the knowledge and you will be aware that while you are trying to solve these SDGs 1 and 2, these herbicides
Mm.
and pesticides you are distributing to farmers is going to affect the health and well-being
Healthcare.
of the
Yeah. Yeah.
individual. You understand?
Yeah.
Then you will be able to take actions from there, and then you will come from the angle to bring more sustainable solutions to this. So the knowledge would enable us to effectively articulate the importance of environmental protection to others, and then even health-wise, like I have said, and even in terms of the economic side of it, Nicholas have explained how you need to have your farm close to you to reduce the emission per mile in terms of the food productions. So first of all, if we have the green skills, it will make us to have the knowledge and we'll be more aware of the happenings around us. The second point I would like to talk on is in terms of critical thinking. Green skills fosters critical thinking by encouraging us, the young people, to be able to analyze complex environmental problems. We'll be able to evaluate these solutions and then make informed decisions. So if I know that what I am going to do, yes, in terms of food production, like I say, it is good. Or if I look at it from the economic side, it is good. But from the environmental side of it, is this really okay? Because the whole concept of environment, of sustainable development is based on three concepts. You have to look at the social side of it, you have to look at the environmental side, and then you have to look at the economic side of it. So if these three are not balanced, then what you are doing is not sustainable. So even if it's environmentally sustainable in a way, which we are advocating for now, in terms of the economy, in terms of the social side of it, it is not sustainable,
Yeah.
then it is not balanced. Then you also need to look at it from that side. So we become critical thinkers where we'll be able to evaluate these things from complex perspectives, and then we'll be able to make informed decisions. Then the third point I will talk on is problem solving. So once you are aware, once you have been able to critically think through it, then you'll be able to provide sustainable solutions to this problem. So acquiring the green skills now will be able to equip us, the young advocates and activists, or even the researchers, with the ability to develop the innovative solutions to many of these environmental problems that we think. Then we'll be able to identify the opportunities for sustainable practices, and we will propose practical strategies to address issues like the issues of pollution, resource depletion, or even climate change. And I'll give an
Mm.
example. In somebody came up recently with the electric vehicle, electric moving vehicle, EMVC.
Yeah.
There is,
Yeah.
yeah, that launched it recently. Yes, because globally, transportation accounts for about 40% of the total emission. So if we can
Yeah.
move into solar vehicles or renewable means of transportation, of course, we'll be able to cut down our emissions. So, and we don't need to always look out. We don't need to look out to Elon Musk. We don't need to look out to Tesla. These things are around us. So if we acquire these green skills, we'll be able to come up with these sustainable solutions. And let me give a personal example. In 2015, I did a project with someone. I think Nicholas is aware of this. In 2014, we did that project. We came up with a fuelless generator that would be able to use the motor battery combined with some parts of the normal generator that we know to provide
That we use.
electricity. And yes,
Yeah.
and we came up, we went far as the Centenary Trade Fair then. I think that was 2014. The Centenary Trade Fair that was held in Abuja. We came, we showcased our idea, we pushed it forth, but unfortunately, we've not gotten the funding or the best platform that we can launch this
Mm,
project. But we are not giving up on it. It's one of the things that have pushed me to run another master's in renewable and sustainable energy, hoping that I'll be
mm,
able to bring all these green skills into practice someday. Not too long again, I believe that we'll be able to get the funding to launch this project. The last thing I would say is communication skills. Yes, if you understand that there is a problem, then you'll be able to tailor your communication towards. It's beyond carrying placards and say, oh, we must cut down emission to 1.5.
mm.
We mitigate the effect of climate change. No, 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 no.
Climate
We
change.
can really go beyond that. If you know, if you understand the concept, if you know, or if you have the knowledge of the green skills, you will tailor down your communication. So when you are talking to the government, many times we just go to the government and we tell them, no, don't do this. The oil and gas that you are producing is causing or is contributing to CO2 emission. We need to
Yeah.
adopt the renewable side, or we need to move to renewable sources of energy. Like I told us earlier, if you want to talk about the concept of sustainability, you look at it from the economic, the social, and the environmental side. So if you focus only on attacking the government because some of the projects are not environmentally viable, what if those projects are economically viable? How will you be able to tailor your communication to tell the government that, okay, this thing is not environmentally viable, it is economically viable. However, you can adapt XYZ skills that will
Mm,
bring income for the country while we are also protecting the environment and we are creating jobs, which is the social aspect of this. So acquiring green skills would make us to be able to tailor down our communications. We'll be able to engage in meaningful conversations beyond carrying placards, beyond shouting, beyond saying, oh, we need to cut down emissions. We would engage with key stakeholders. We can engage with experts and we'll make them to know that yes,
mm.
XYZ actions are taking, they are not sustainable, and then we need to take further actions on them. So I think I would stop here for now so that we can
Thank you.
proceed with other questions.
Th-
Yeah.
Thank you so much, David, and thanks as well, Nicholas, for your earlier submission. David has explained how we can engage from a place of knowledge, and even in advocacy, when you advocate from a place of knowledge, you come with more power than someone who just advocates blindly, right? And as young people, when we lead movements and discuss these issues that affect our future, it's very key that we engage from a place of knowledge and power. So, for those who are just joining us, you're welcome to the conversation. This is a conversation led by the NESG's Community of Praxis on Youth. We're discussing green skills for a sustainable Nigeria, the role of youth. We have maybe about 22 minutes, 23 minutes left in our conversation. So, I'll just go back to our panelists for the next round of questions. But while we're doing that, if you're joining on YouTube or LinkedIn or any other social media platform, do well to drop your comments. The team will bring your comments to us or your questions to the panelists, and they'll be happy to respond to those questions shortly. I will come back to Nicholas now because, Nicholas, so recently the president declared a state of emergency on the agricultural sector, right? And we get to hear a lot about state of emergencies, and it does feel like, like something needs to happen urgently. But from a young person's perspective, seeing that this is something that this administration wants to work on, how can young people contribute to a sustainable food system in Nigeria, in addition to the points you made earlier?
Okay. Thank you so much, Ben, for that question. And thank you once again, David. It's very, very brilliant points out there that you raised. So first, I would love to say that for a young person to effectively contribute to the Nigerian food system, you will need to understand why actually happens. Just like um, uh, David talks about knowledge. You need to understand what's happening. Why will the federal government have to declare state of emergency on food security? So you need to understand the grass, you need to understand the causes, right? And when that happens, I think the first thing that should come to your mind is you should begin to see it as an opportunity for you to position yourself, especially if you're a young person that want to be actively involved in the food system. So you need to find out why, what's happening. Of course, the what we see on the surface is we have high inflation of food. Basic food are expensive. They are not affordable. So you need to ask yourself question: Why? Why is the food expensive? Why are we not having enough food on our table when we have enough resource to be able to bring this to table? So, well, I actually did some research, and I'm still doing. But the first thing that stood out for me is the fact that in Nigeria we have what we call a low yield per plot compared to any other country in Africa. Countries like Kenya, countries like South Africa are doing better. They are getting more from a hectare than Nigeria is getting from a hectare of land. That means we are using a lot of resources, and enough is not coming out of that resources. And what happened? You can't scale in that. You can't scale with that. So it becomes very expensive. So young persons need to ask a question: How can I step in to help improve our yield in terms of per hectare? That's the first question you need to ask. So now if you notice, the government's intervention is giving fertilizers to the farmers, making farmers to produce more. But I've also discovered from my research that actually Nigeria produce enough to feed itself and to even export. We produce enough. Imagine 40% of what you produce never reach the consumers. You know what I mean? Imagine having those reduce that 40% to 20%, or reduce that 40% to let's say 15%. You
Yeah.
discover that you'll be able to have more food. Take for instance, if I buy 10 kilogram of tomatoes from Jaws, and only 7 kilogram landed in Lagos, what happens? I'm going to put the cost price of 10 kilogram on 7 kilogram, because I need to be able to make my profit. I need to be able to make my money back. So at the end of the day, food waste across the supply chain is one of the major reasons that the food cost is expensive. So you
Yeah.
need to start asking, how do I come in? What can I do to solve this problem? Another example is people don't eat animals. In Nigeria, we move cows from Meduguri to Port Harcourt. We don't need to move cows. What we need is to move meat, not cows. So imagine what it means what it takes to transport one cow. If you can have a standard abattoir in Meduguri and
Yeah.
convert it to meat, you discover that you'll be able to move large quantity of those products at cheaper price, and it will get to people in Port Harcourt even at cheaper price than when you move live animals. So we need to begin to see, we need to begin to 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 look for a way to take live goats, live cows, live whatever they are off our roads,
Yeah.
because what people
Yeah.
want to eat is what is meat. And it's not just animals, that goes to every other thing. There's no point moving wet cassava that is almost 70% water when people need is not the cassava but the cassava flour. So how can
Flour.
young person need
Yeah.
to start thinking on how can I add value to the cassava so that I don't need to move cassava, wet cassava across Nigeria. What I need is either cassava flour or cassava chips. Up to today, people we still move fresh potatoes from Jaws. Jaws is the only place is one of the only places that we cultivate potatoes in large quantity. I mean, what we
Okay.
call the Irish potato, not the sweet potato. But we still take
Yeah.
them fresh from Jaws down to wherever it is, down to any part of Nigeria. But if you buy these potatoes, what do? You convert them to chips, right? Where things work, you don't see. In fact, people don't even know how potatoes look like. People think that potatoes are food because they are
Yeah.
processed into chips. So there is a way you can process them, store them, and in a way, what you're sending across is you're sending chips, not potato. What am I saying in essence? The young person need to start looking at value addition. We don't need to all rush to the farm. See, even though we all goes to the farm and we don't add value to this product, the cost of food will not reduce. And in fact, as a matter of fact, what happens when we all go to the farm? When we all go to the farm, you because we produce 10, because we are all producing 10 tons higher than we are producing, does not mean that we have reduced the cost of we have reduced the waste along the supply
The
chain.
food waste.
So
Yeah.
if you're
Yeah.
wasting 30% on 1 tons, that means you're also wasting 30% on 10 tons. So the more we produce without handling the underlying problem, the more we waste.
Issues.
And the more we produce,
Mm.
the more the resources goes to waste, and the more the food cost will continue to rise. So I will say this, that I'm not seeing the cost of food. I'm not a prophet of doom, but I'm not seeing the cost of food coming down to the way we desire, except we tackle some of these things. So
Mm.
what do
Mm.
the young people do? Now there is such a thing as product development, right? So what is product development? Food product development is ability to develop new food product that is more nutritious, that is more
Mm.
safe, and that have extended shelf life using combination of technologies and knowledge, such that from the same cassava you can do different things from cassava, right? So young people need to start paying attention to food product development. In fact, I used to say that learning how to develop products from food, from raw materials, is a great skill, because when you learn how to do that, you are cutting down the cost. You are cutting down the cost on the environment. You are improving the
Mm.
value of the food process. So the money goes back to the farmer, and young persons are employed. Now there is a thing called cottage industries, for instance. Now you see people drinking what they call in Nigeria orange juices, but when you read the
Yeah.
label, you will see 5% orange concentrate. So food industries don't buy fresh orange and juice them. What they do is that they buy orange concentrate from from cottage industries. What do I mean by cottage industries? These are the people between the farmers and the big industries. So, for instance, in your place you have enough mangoes. Young people may need to think now, how can I convert this mango to a cottage product? How can I
Mm.
concentrate them? Such that, by concentration I mean you reduce the water content. So what is going to the what is so that what the industry do is they simply take the concentrate from you and dilute it with water, and then they make it into their product. See, this
Mm.
Nigerian food, so Nigerian fruit industries are importing concentrate of the fruit that is produced in Nigeria. So what are the young persons doing? This is an area you should go into. I know there are a lot of technicalities and a lot and infrastructural issues, but the problem is that
Issues. You know.
we can't continue to to talk about the problem without doing something to actively solve that problem. Like
Mm.
I gave example of how young persons are beginning to turn around the food system. Somebody sat somewhere and said, look, it's enough of using soil to plant. Let's begin to use the technology, the hydroponics technology. Mind you, hydroponics technology requires 24 hours light. Yet somebody is in the country, is in Nigeria, where we say there is no electricity, that is using hydroponics technology and is scaling. So it's time we begin to we start looking beyond the challenges and look at the problem. By the time you start solving them, by the time you throw yourself into it, you discover that solutions start coming. Now, when I think about young people, I think about three things. Number one, they have the energy, they have access, they are technology natives, right? So they can think beyond what an average 70, 60s, 50-year-old man can think, because you have access to different technology by virtue of the fact that you're a young person. And number three, we have innovation. I used to say that technology is not the solution. The solution is how you can effectively combine different technologies, right?
Mm.
So it's
Mm.
not enough that you know about AI. It's not enough that you know about machine learning. It's not enough that you know
Yeah.
about e-commerce, that you know about digital marketing. The question is that how can I bring these different skills, technological skills together as a young person and apply them to the food system problems that we're having? All right. So
Thank you.
I was talking about an
Yeah.
application. As a matter of fact, food waste is the major problem. There are people who
Yeah.
have food, and this food in their house goes to waste without consuming them. There is a technology here where I am at the moment, that what they do is that when you know that you cannot consume your food, they come to buy and to pick from you, so you donate them. you use that, you do that on platform, they come to pick it from you, and persons who don't have food to eat will have to go there. So you see that there have been a gap between people who have surplus and people who doesn't have. And it's a social venture. Sometimes you can go there to pick it for free. Sometimes you can decide to pay a token. And these guys are fully funded by international NGOs. This is how young persons can come into that system. So you can go,
Nicholas, I'm sure if we leave you, you can talk for the next 2 hours so passionately about all of these solutions.
Right?
But
so
thank
what
you.
I'm
Thank you
trying
so
to
much.
say, just to round up what I'm saying, is that the young people approach to solving food problems shouldn't be traditional. It shouldn't be mortar and stick. You shouldn't do it like your grandfather. You should do it as a young person. You should make use of technology, make use of energy, and bring innovations into it. Once you put those three things in place, trust me, you're going to see that you may not change it overnight. But when I'm doing mine here, when I'm doing mine in Jos, another person is doing in Port Harcourt, another person is doing in Ibadan, another person. By the time we have a critical mass of young people using technology, innovation, and energy in food system, in the next 10 to 15 years, Nigeria will become food surplus. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Nicholas. I feel like you've hit largely on the crux of our conversation this evening. Thanks a lot. And just to give a shout out to all the people joining us, we can see your comments. We can see Afolabi, we can see Amadi, we can see all of these comments, and we're going to just take your questions so far. Smith, Wakocha, Lucky, Mr. James, we can all see you, and we're glad that you could join this wonderful conversation. So these questions now are from the audience. There's a quick question here that says, can you explain the importance of the NESG community of practice to make sure that there's youth inclusion in governance? David, do you want to take that? Also in view of our participation at the NES, at the forthcoming NES, do you want to take that quickly before we move to the next question? Over to you, David.
Even, I think maybe you should take it since it falls within your thematic group.
Okay, well, fair, it does.
Politics and governance. Yeah.
It does actually, yeah. So yes, the NESG's community of practice on youth, like I said, currently is made up of members who are former Bridge fellows, and the idea is that we are learning and engaging and working in various spheres of influence and sectors. And through the NESG, we are finding ways to engage policy, engage governance, and engage in so many ways. So a good example is just this past Saturday, the Community of Practice on Youth led a policy review session during the Youth Parliament's International Youth Day, which, of course, that was in Abuja. And, through that engagement, we led the participants there to be able to take part in, reviewing of the National Youth Policy, which is supposed to elapse this year, by the way, it's 2019 to 2023. And we're looking at ways where young people's thoughts and ideas can form, the next youth policy. And we're going to lead conversations on that, subsequently, to ensure that youths and young people are part of that, part of that conversation. A simple way, again, is that you see a lot of us during the Nigerian Economic Summit. So if you've not met us yet, do well to attend the summit, do well to get your ticket on the website. You'll see us there. We are going to be moderating sessions. We're also planning to have a youth, session as well during the NES. So please look forward to that. Look forward to information on the NESG's social media platforms to learn more about that. Okay, so thank you for putting me on the spot, David. I will move on to the next. I'll move on to the next question. So someone is asking, how can someone implement some of these ideas without financial support? I think this would be to you, Nicholas, because you did share a lot of wonderful ideas, and David can touch on this too a bit. But how can someone implement, just quickly, we have about 9 minutes left. How can someone implement these ideas without financial support? Because finances seem to be a major issue.
So my first question, I think my first answer would be you can't. You can't do it. You can't implement this without financial support. There's no how you can implement it without financial support. But you can start it without the financial support. I always tell people that you don't need money to start a project. You only need money to run it. But the first thing is that, have you started? Have you put stuffs in place? There are a lot of things you can do without money first. So start from what money cannot do. Once you start from what money cannot do, what people used to call the low-hanging fruit, then you begin to see that there is a way nature comes together to bring support to your way. So I gave you an example of soilless farm, of Samson doing awesome stuff with soilless farm. What he's doing today wouldn't have been possible if he had just sat in the comfort of his house and then complain about the problems. So the first thing is that you don't think about the financial support first. Start. When you start, and you're starting with a genuine interest, we are starting with a genuine with a and your model is scalable. The truth is that there are there is money everywhere. People are looking for where to put
Mm,
money, not just to even get it
mm,
back. They're looking for young persons who are doing stuff that they can give their money to, right? So you can't do it without financial support, but you can
mm.
start without financial support. So my advice for you is that start from where you can start. Understand the problem,
Yeah.
have the knowledge, like David said. Then find out what are my strengths. All right. Okay. Let me say this. You need three things. Number one, you need money, you need people, you need the skill. You must have at least three of them. I mean, you must have at least one of them. If you don't have the money, you can have the people that can help you do it for free, or you can have the skill. If you don't have the skill,
Mm,
you can know the people who have the skill and can help you. So you should have one of these three. If you don't have the skill, you don't have the people, you don't have the money, most likely that problem is not for you to solve. But if you have any
mm.
of them, you can start from that place and you can get the other two. Thank you.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Nicholas. David, you had started an idea from scratch before, and you talked about the fact that you couldn't get support, so you're moving forward with that idea, doing other things to be able to raise support. So from your experience as well, what advice would you give to this person on how someone can start something without all of the funding that they're looking for? Yeah.
All of the funding. Yes, okay. So I think Nicholas has talked much on the funding aspect. Let me look at it from this perspective that we have three currencies as humans: your time, your money, and your knowledge. So whichever one you have, or whichever one you do not have, rather, you can use the other two to get it. So
Mm,
now we have the knowledge, but we don't have the money yet. We don't have, maybe okay, maybe we have the knowledge, we have the time, but we don't have the money. So we can use the time and the knowledge to be able to get the money. And I think this is what I am currently doing. Like I say, I have this idea. It's still in the process. But over the years, technology has evolved. And I have also come to know that I need to build more knowledge to bring this into the market. I have looked at it from the competitive side of it. So you, as a person that you want to come into the market to do this, you also need to do a form of a visibility study or a competitive analysis to see that, okay,
yeah.
what you are bringing into the market, first of all, before people can even go into it, is, is this product better than what is already in the market? So we've
Mm,
identified some gaps with our model already. And we are currently working on reviewing it so that when we push it into the market, it will have a competitive advantage over a solar energy system. It will have a competitive advantage over maybe a wind energy system like that. And that is the
yeah.
stage we are currently. So to the person that have asked this question, like I said, you have three currencies. Yours now, in your case, you do not have money. So what I would advise is you can still build on the knowledge more. I believe when we get to where we have a clear competitive advantage over the other technologies, it becomes easier for us to push or pitch this idea, and we'll be able to secure the right funding for it.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much, David. So we'll take the last comment now. I think this is more of a comment before I come to the panelists to give us their final words. So this is a contribution from Omolola Oluwadara on LinkedIn, and that's also a good point. Let's all of us do well to connect with ourselves on LinkedIn. Nicholas mentioned earlier that if you don't have the money, you can have the people, right? So your network is very key, and that's something that through the community of practice on youth, we are advocating for, building our personal networks and ensuring that we know the right people that we need for our career. So Omolola is saying that we have an institute that has done a lot of research in post-harvesting processing. The recommendation should be to look inward and implement research findings. And trust me, Omolola, we 100% agree with you. Nigeria actually does have a lot of documents and ideas and policy ideas and policies, etc., that we actually just need to implement. And through the community of practice on youth, we hope that we will be able to advocate for this. We hope you can join us, to make this happen, because all of these, ideas need to be advocated for, and we need to see to the very end that they get implemented. So we have 3 minutes to go. I'll come to Nicholas and David now to give us their final words. You've spoken extensively on the green skills. You've spoken about how we can implement and add these green skills to our lives, and how we can also add them to the food systems, add them to pretty much every sector. David spoke about transportation and logistics, and all of the sectors we can add them to. What are your final words, on this conversation topic for today, and what should people take away from this panel? Yeah.
Okay. Should I go first?
My final word would be
David can go first. Yeah, sorry, David can go first. Over to you, David.
yeah. My final word would be the world has gone green already. I wouldn't say the world is going green, because we've been saying going green, going green. The SDGs, we have less than 7 years already to the deadline or the timeline. So the world has gone green, and as a young person, you need to align your skills with the trending technologies and skills in the green technologies. So whichever business you are into, whatever you are into, whatever it is at all you are doing, look into the sustainable practices in those sectors. Look into the green skills that are available in those sectors. Like I said earlier, we are getting to a point that if you don't have the green skills, beyond I am a graduate of renewable energy, yes, what green skills, practical green skills do you have in this sector that we can use to employ you? So without these skills, it will be very difficult to secure funding or to land any good paying job in the industries. So we need to build more skills, build more green skills, and make ourselves to be positioned for opportunities.
Thank you. Thank you so much, David. And after all, our flag has green, Abi, so we have no option. We have no option than also to imbibe these green skills. Over to you, Nicholas.
Not just one green, 2 greens, right?
He has 2 greens, exactly.
All right. So I think
Yeah.
my last word would be green is actually a competitive advantage. It's a unique selling point, especially for a country where we still have a lot of things that project running and processes that are still not considering the environmental impact. As a young person, if you want to come into any field, looking at it from the perspective of the environmental sustainability is going to be a very competitive advantage for you, not just within Nigeria, but to give you a global edge against above others. So to build on what David said, I want you to begin to see green skills as a competitive advantage for your career, for your business, and for your project. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nicholas. And thanks a lot to everyone that has been able to join us. Omolola is asking how she can join the community. So Omolola, just be on the lookout on the NESG social media platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, etc. We'll be sharing a bit more information on how, you will be able to engage with the community of practice on youth, because this is a community not just for the, the Bridge Fellow alumni, but also for everyone. And we'll find ways you can engage with us through our various panel sessions, conversations, and also projects. So please be on the lookout for that. But just to say a big thank you to our wonderful panelists. If you leave Nicholas and David for the next 2 hours, they can keep talking about all of the great work they've done, and also ways that young people can engage, with green skills, engage in the food systems, engage in the environment space. But just to say a big thank you to them for joining us, and a big thank you to you as well for joining the conversation. Like I said earlier, be on the lookout. There's a lot that will be coming out from the community of practice on youth. We are the the JIV angle of the NESG, right? We're the cool people. So so look out for all of the cool things that we'll be announcing coming soon. And also do well to visit 29.nesgroup.org to get all the information about the forthcoming 29th Nigerian Economic Summit. So with that being said, thank you so much again for joining us, and see you on our next conversation. Let us all stay green. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.